Hello everyone and welcome to Spoiler Warning, your premier wrestling news show. Due to a few technical issues yesterday, we are live today with plenty of news that we would have been sharing yesterday. I'll go through the headlines as usual. We will be recapping what was our top story yesterday, will still be our top story today, that being the update on Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins' current WWE contracts. We were also talking plans for return for Alexa Bliss, as well as character, what she'll be looking like at that period, Drew McIntyre's position, his character, and his plans for the future, whether they include WWE or not. No progress at the moment on Finn Balor's new deal, we'll be talking that. We're going to be talking about Sami Zayn and the reaction from fans to his winning the gauntlet match, as well as the disappointment around Chad Gable. We're going to talk the arrival of Mercedes Money, as well as the arrivals of Ospreay and Okada. There's a lot of reports that came out around this time from Dave Meltzer, which unfortunately we're going to have to really throw a lot of crap on that one, I'll tell you that. And then a little bit on Shayna Baszler arriving in Bloodsport, as well as other WWE wrestlers. Potentially WWE already apparently unhappy with GCW for their, shall we say, sharing of information that wasn't originally scheduled. So plenty to dive into, plenty to talk about, and as usual, we will be answering as many of your questions as we can over the course of this show. If it is your first time here, please do be aware, if you dive in with a question, I will endeavour to answer it, and the way that we generally try and keep these shows moving, the way that we help the growth of this channel, is with a good old-fashioned hitting of a like button and commenting when and where we can. Even if you're just lurking, it's absolutely fine. The more people are watching, the better. That's how these channels grow. Hello Alad, hello Perish, hello Leon, hello Mark is getting deja vu. Juan says Tom, the most reliable journalist, is back, thank you kindly. And Brad says throw all that cold weather on Dave Meltzer. Welcome Spider Boss as well on the Twitch side. So let's see what we can jump into. Our top story, or at least the recap of the top story from yesterday, is an update on the contract situation with Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, their contracts are actively expiring, and they will expire if no new deal is sorted and finalised before June 2024. That's how close we are to a moment without Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. The WWE are not currently prioritising Becky Lynch or Seth Rollins when it comes to the signing of new contracts. There's a number of different reasons for this. There were reports that around this time WWE would instead be focusing on free agents. This has not played out at all, with reports now popping out that Kazuchika Okada wasn't of much interest to WWE, Will Ospreay wasn't of much interest, and we already know that Mercedes Money, she already had rejected the WWE before the turn of the year, as previously reported during Spoiler Warning. So instead, the only real free agents that came into WWE so far were AOP, but a lot of the dirt sheets can't really report that because they've already reported that that deal was already signed several months ago. So it's a difficult one for them. Instead, the WWE are putting their focus into Drew McIntyre. That is considered a higher priority because it expires sooner than Becky Lynch or Seth Rollins. This also is a factor for Finn Balor as well. The WWE remain confident that when it comes to signing these new deals, it will be as much of a formality as it can possibly be. That Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch don't see themselves going anywhere other than WWE, and all indications are that this is true, but some of the demands being levied will make Nick Khan a little bit unhappy. Primarily, as I mentioned previously, a lot of the new deals coming up, the wrestlers in question are looking for limited date contracts. They're looking for deals that work for them and not the WWE. I personally have no issue with that. If you're a wrestler, you deserve to get paid. Now, Becky and Seth likely to be kept away from championships for a little while, particularly Becky, as the next generation is pushed. That includes World Heavyweight Championships and Women's Championships. Both of them are roughly expected to lose at WrestleMania in the betting odds at the moment. Seth owes a few favours, people who brought him back to the level that he's at, and is expected to have a feud with Gunther if he signs a new deal. So we're expecting to see Seth Rollins versus Gunther later in the year with any new deal brought to him. That doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be winning it though, and Gunther is of course currently being pushed, so if Seth owes favours, Gunther may be picking up and taking the benefit of that. For Becky Lynch, the plans aren't finalised, but she is a prominent voice in the creative team in the way that I can also see being recognised in any new deal. Any new deal for Becky Lynch will likely include some clauses that recognise her contribution to the booking of wrestlers such as Nia Jax and Liv Morgan, and those are just the recent ones. Both of them are expected to lose at WrestleMania as they move into more legacy, Randy Orton-style positions within the WWE. Rollins versus CM Punk, the match has been abandoned for now, but they will come back to it later, especially with Punk expected to overtake Rollins as a higher level star upon his return. There's a number of people, in fact, who are at the moment considered much more important to the WWE than Seth Rollins, than Becky Lynch when it comes to the overall star structure. Those being, of course, names like Cody Rhodes, names like CM Punk, and others who are coming into the company. So at this point, there's a lot of moving parts, and the deals have not been signed. WrestleFan says, will Rey and Santos be facing off at Mania 40? Certainly a possibility, and it seems likely at this point. Spider-Boss says, if you're going to say who is angry with The Rock, I think the SmackDown Women's Division. I've no idea who that I can share, but when it comes to what, it's not what is being said. Hello, Noob. Nice to see you. Perry says, a match next week on SmackDown. Well, that certainly answers that question as regards Rey Mysterio. Alex says, do you have any update on when Ricky Stark's contract ends? I do not have that information, unfortunately. Neither does anyone else who has told you that they do lately. Eric says, I know you were trying to talk about my question about Braun Strowman coming back. Any news? Not as of yet, no. DM says, The Rock and Drew McIntyre are the two most interesting heels in WWE right now. They are both on fire on the mic. Perry says, Andrade and Sean Spears are free agents, weren't they? They were, but those deals did get over the line before the end of the year. Daniel says, afternoon. Afternoon, Daniel. By the way, Parrish, appreciate you pointing that out. I did actually forget about Sean Spears. That's a good point. Selvik says, hello, Tom. Hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you, Selvik. Spider-Boss says, 2 years ago, Meltzer claimed Mercedes money asked to get more money than Becky and Charlotte. It's 2024 and Meltzer claims Mercedes money is the highest paid in wrestling. Meltzer never learns. Yeah, more on that shortly. Spider-Boss says, just as Becky, do you think Charlotte will be away from titles? Yes, I do. They're already actively keeping her away from championships. The plan for WrestleMania was indeed going to be Bianca Belair. Andrew says, hello, Tom. Hope you had a great day. Also, it feels absolutely insane that Mania 40 is 20-something days away. Feels like the month has gone quick. It does feel like that. We are getting closer and closer. Jonathan, I've shared everything I can on that one. Sovik, sorry to hear that you experienced a freeze. I've not seen anything on my page. Please do let me know if it happens again. Spider-Boss says, I always wonder why Becky didn't work with other women from the NXT Women's Division last year. She worked with everyone that she could. It's a shame she couldn't tick every box, but you only do what you can. Shifty says, anything on the outcome for Cody versus Roman? That would be just blatantly spoiling the main event of WrestleMania. Good day, Turnbuckle Talk. Hi, Carl. How you doing, mate? Leon says, what are your thoughts on the WrestleMania card? What match are you most looking forward to? Personally, I think the WrestleMania card is quite fun this year. The one I'm most looking forward to is probably Becky versus Rhea. I'm not that excited for either of the main events. Never been that big on The Rock. And honestly, when it comes to Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, I've seen it. It was boring. Spider-Bell says, I wonder what happened with Ricky Starks and he and Big Bill lost the tag team titles. Ricky hasn't appeared on TV. Could be an injury, could be literally anything. It would be pure speculation. Aled says, interesting. If Seth and Gunther have a feud, I wonder if it'll be for the IC title. Right, you are, Parrish. I'll double check on that one to see my notes on it. Grayson says, hello, Tom. Hello, Grayson. Ray says, hi, Tom. Do you think CM Punk is a top babyface attraction in terms of drawing power? He moves all metrics. Yes, I do. Razar says, what's going on with Bianca? It seemed like she was going to have a match against Tiffany at WrestleMania. Now it looks like it's not happening. At this point, your guess is as good as mine. They're currently working on different creative plans, but I think they've left it a little too late. Shifty, at this point, I don't know when it comes to Tiffany. She was only called up recently, and that was mostly as a reward for her work with Becky Lynch. Aled says, there's 10 matches announced for Mania. How many more are you expecting to be announced? 5. Personally, I see 8 on night 1, 7 on night 2. Rayan says, hi Tom, do you think Punk will induct Paul Heyman? He hinted at it the day it was announced. Certainly that could be an option. Personally, I would go towards Steve Austin myself. Eric says, do you think Charlotte breaks her dad's record? Yes, I do. I think of all the people who have the possibility to do it, it's either Randy Orton or Charlotte Flair. But about 5 years ago, I said I expected Charlotte Flair to break that record on the Sports Keeda podcast. James says, I wonder if Darby Allin takes a hint from God and doesn't go and climb Everest. Takes a hint from God? That's bold phrasing, mate. Andrew says, do you see the next AEW star returning to WWE WrestleMania 40 this year? Diamond Dallas Page did post a picture of MJF and Cody. Diamond Dallas Page would not know if anyone would be going to WWE. Daniela says, Tom, why do you think Jade Cargill's build-up has been very soon? It is, in my opinion, she hasn't even signed with a brand yet. They are not 100% confident that she'll be able to produce anything particularly huge at the moment. She does need to tick a few more boxes in order to get there. The WWE just need to get that over the line. Thank you, Perry, for the clarification. Glad you're here. You're doing great work today. Michael says, do you believe Lashley makes a Mania card? Yes, I do. Spider-Boss says, do you think Cody needs more of a character? Yes, and I've been saying it for years now. Jay Palmer says, Becky going against Ripley will be... Oh, Jay Palmer thinks that's going to be boring. I do not. One says, hey Tom, also Dave Meltzer already claiming Mercedes has heat for saying she'll return one day. Seems like it's hit pieces because AEW don't give him news anymore. Certainly this is very similar to how he used to communicate about CM Punk. Joey says, I'm not used to Saturday spoiler warning. Neither do I, mate. Neither am I. DM says, what is the best WrestleMania main event you ever watched? Mine is The Rock versus Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17. Difficult one. Because I've seen a lot of WrestleMania main events, and honestly, the WrestleMania main event tends to be pretty boring for me. The one I most enjoyed was probably Sasha versus Bianca. Perry says, any chance in this TKO partnership we see Bobby Lashley fight in the UFC? There is interest in making that happen. Brock Lesnar was supposed to be the first one. His new deal is now very unlikely to be signed. Noob says, have you heard that Asuka is injured last night? I heard that she got hurt. Didn't hear anything about a long-term injury. Leon says, I wonder how Bobby feels about missing WrestleMania again. I don't think he will. Joey says, do you have any news on the WWE and GCW deal? Yes, I do. Jonathan thinks Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins will win at WrestleMania 40. Shifty said, Dave Meltzer said Logan versus Randy was planned yesterday, but then they announced a triple threat. He is in the mud. That's pretty typical Dave Meltzer. Perry says, Darby Allin broke his foot in his match versus Jay White and pushed his Mount Everest climb to next year. Mox says, 2 spoiler warnings in a row. Fantastic. Unlucky for yesterday, by the way. Hopefully stream goes good. Hopefully so. Spider-Boss says, only thing I hope from Becky versus Rhea is it lasts more than 7 minutes. Joey says, is WWE planning to do Santos versus Ray at Mania since they announced it for SmackDown next week? That would be a no. If they've already announced it, it's not going to happen. Silvic says, have you seen the Crow reboot trailer? Not as of yet. Wrestler fan says, Dave Meltzer said Bray Wyatt is not planned for the 2024 Hall of Fame. Is there any truth to this? Last I knew, last I heard, Bray Wyatt was planned for this year's Hall of Fame. Rayan says, you reported, Tom, the other day 2024 will be a year we see a John Cena and CM Punk interaction. Do you Wiseman see an interaction similar to Rock, Hogan, Austin Mania segment? Don't know on that one. And to be clear, I didn't report that it was definitely going to happen. I reported that CM Punk is going to be at WrestleMania. I reported that John Cena is going to be at WrestleMania. And I reported that there is creative interest in making that happen. The initial pitch to John Cena did include mention of CM Punk. Joey says, which teams do you see being a part of the tag team ladder match? I definitely think Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin will be there. Spider-Boss says, I never got why Rhea's matches are so short. They're not largely. It's just that when she's against a particular opponent, she tends to squash. Shifty says, Asuka sprained her ankle or just hit a nerve or just tweaked it. I don't have every single detail, unfortunately. I know she was hurt. I don't have anything about an injury. Thank you, Corey, for subscribing on the YouTube side. We are currently live on Twitter, YouTube, and on Twitch as well. We're essentially using this to advertise what we do here on Spoiler Warning, and if you like what we do, please be sure to follow, stick around, and make it happen. Doesn't matter, Joey. You can have a championship and still go for another championship. DM says, do you know that the WrestleMania 30 was the Rock versus Brock Lesnar and the plan was for Brock to attack Rock Raw after WrestleMania 29, but due to Rock's injury, the plan was cancelled? No, because that is not true. None of that is true. Perry says, I personally don't see any issue on Becky and Seth with contracts. It's clear WWE values them highly and the performers love WWE. Sometimes you just need to take time to get the right contract. WWE see this much the same. And Spider-Boss says, my favourite Rhea match is Money in the Bank 2021 versus Charlotte. And that was not a short match. Second piece of news. So we've got plenty of news. For those just watching for the first time on Twitter, what we do here, I share news, I catch up with the chat, I share more news, I catch up with the chat, and we do this ad nauseum until there is no news left. Typically the show will last about an hour. If you're watching on YouTube, where we do have 57 people, 2 more likes gets us to 30. Every like grows this show, so please consider doing so. And if you like this and you'd like to see it twice a week, as with the times below, by all means, pop on over to YouTube and you will find us constantly sharing news that you will not find anywhere else, including the entire timeline of Mercedes money arriving in AEW. First to report it was happening, first to report the WWE were trying to get involved, first to report that she'd signed with AEW, and plenty more, so be sure to check that out. Our next piece of news is as regards Alexa Bliss. So, at current, plans are being put in place for Alexa Bliss to return around SummerSlam time. The WWE aren't necessarily putting a dedicated deadline in place, but they're creating plans and they will continue to do so until a point at which point she is fit enough or believes herself to be physically prepared for a return to wrestling. So this may be pushed back depending on her training schedule, but Bliss has communicated directly with the WWE in the last couple of weeks that she wants to make a wrestling return and she wants them to make that as easy for her as possible by planning ahead. There is still space for Bliss to return ahead of schedule, but that would be in a purely management capacity rather than in a wrestling capacity. The early plans for this option are actually quite interesting. They involve Bliss acting in a way that she did way back when for Moments of Bliss. So similar to a Grayson Waller style capacity, where he didn't wrestle for several months after debuting on the main roster. The difference would be a clear mean streak to her character that would eventually evolve her back towards the Bray Wyatt written version of Alexa Bliss. For those who haven't been here for spoiler warning for the last few weeks, Alexa Bliss is planning to return in a new amalgamation of all her previous characters. She had the most fun when working as the Bray Wyatt-led invention, and she wants to see a return to something similar. Lily will be making a return. Now, in addition to this, fun fact, there is a version of Alexa Bliss's theme that refers to her as the Fury, which is a large part of the basis for the character that she worked as with Bray Wyatt. The theme song itself was barely used and was never used in front of a crowd. A lot of the decisions being made right now are with a view to using that exact theme. It's amazing how much the storyline is being put together based around one song. That said, it's solid, and I do think you should check it out. Still to come, we have news on Drew McIntyre, news on Finn Balor, news on Sami Zayn and the report that Dave Meltzer put out that Sami Zayn is disappointed with the fan reaction, news on Mercedes money and how she was received with her AEW debut, as well as the signings of Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada, and a little bit on Blood Sport. But naturally, I will now be catching up with the chat. If you're watching on Twitter, which there are 76 of you currently watching, you do have the option to dive in and ask questions. You are very welcome to do so. There is a chat option there. I'm just going to put, hi, jump in with any questions that you have. I'm just going to do a smiley and leave it there so that you guys, if you'd like, can jump in with your questions as well. So let's catch up with the chat. Joey says, I don't see they're going to defend at Stand and Deliver. They're currently actively trying to make it happen. King Adder says, hey Tom, do you think Cody and Roman will have a special entrance at WrestleMania? Roman did last year. I don't see any reason for that to change. Hector says, evening Tom, what's your opinion on the Rock concert last night? Think he's trying way too hard to be the old Rock in 2024 and it doesn't always hit. I was disappointed by it. Very disappointed by it. It was, The Rock has not really hit for me so far. I'm not loving what he's been doing, and I can't say that it's the most fun I've ever had while watching, good old-fashioned wrestling. A little disappointed by it. DM says, Drew McIntyre said in an interview that he wants to face CM Punk at SummerSlam for the world title. As I previously reported, that is something that they're trying to make happen. Rayan says, has there been any post-Mania heel turn discussions for Seth Rollins? I've already shared every piece of information I have as regards Seth Rollins post-Mania. Leon says, did you watch the Rock concert? If so, what was your thoughts on it? Just shared that. Spider-Boss says, things about Mercedes money I read. Oh, she got heat. Oh, she's a crybaby. She's egocentric. All false. I like that, Parrish. That could work. Shifty says, how long did it take you to become a journalist? Several years. Because, as mentioned, I do have a degree in journalism. So these things do not come easy, and they require a lot of pretty intense study. Joey says, do you see Alexa managing someone? I've shared everything I've got on Alexa there and the possibilities of it. DM says, Seth is burying his title. The story for both WrestleMania main events is all around Roman's title. Drew is right there for real, apart from the script. Drew McIntyre is mostly a distraction, which is not a surprise to many, I'd imagine. Joey says the goddess gimmick was better, not a fan of the hocus pocus stuff. She is. Razar says SummerSlam is in Ohio and Alexa Bliss is from Ohio. I think that would be a perfect place for her to return. I very much agree. Spider-Boss says, do you think NXT is working to create new talents? The call-ups haven't done anything in months because it's full. Basically, it's full, so they're just waiting for things to become available. Joey says, was Chad Gable never in the WrestleMania plans from the start? Chad Gable was never in the WrestleMania plans. More on that shortly. Perry says, love to see a Lily doll randomly appear in WWE TV. Would be amazing Easter eggs to an eventual return. Silvic also asking, who would she manage? Spider-Boss says, The Rock mocking Seth was fun. Those two have basically taken on a life of their own. The idea being, of course, that The Rock versus Seth has been mentioned. Shifty says, Zero News said, and I stopped reading. Juan says, I saw The Rock concert last night and I agree with you, Tom. I'll take his 2012 concert with Vicky Guerrero. Perry says, my son ironically called Memphis, cheered when the town Memphis, Tennessee showed up on SmackDown, fell asleep in the Rock segment, and I was jealous. Daniela says, Tom, Ricochet eliminated McDonough in a gauntlet match this past Raw. Do you see him feuding with Judgment Day at all? Nope. King Azza says The Rock concert was good, but they're giving away what's going to happen at WrestleMania. And Razar says The Rock hasn't been hitting for me either. Glad to know I'm not the only one. It just feels like he's made himself the main character when he wasn't needed. I'm kind of bored by it. I understand. Daniela says, thank you for taking time out of your Saturday evening to do the show, Tom. Much appreciated. Thank you, Daniela. I appreciate you for that. We are hitting pretty big numbers. 150 viewers at the moment. A lot of which, 80 in fact, are currently watching on Twitter. So this is a huge opportunity for me to say, if you've never seen a spoiler warning before and you're enjoying what you're finding here, pop on over to YouTube. The link is on my channel. All you got to do is click the link that's currently sat in my description on Twitter, and you will find this show. You'll get it twice a week rather than the sporadic ones that we're doing at the moment. And hopefully this is something that you'll be seeing a lot more of, because if you hit subscribe, you'll find plenty of very enjoyable content, hopefully, that you can watch. Rayan says, as Punk interacted backstage with Paul Heyman, have they picked up where they left off? By the way, congratulations on your success, Tom. Thank you, Rayan. I appreciate you. CM Punk and Paul Heyman have indeed spoken at some times backstage. DM says, do you think Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson will be match of the year? I'll have to wait and watch a match before I declare a match of the year. Daniela suggesting smash the like button if you haven't already. Thank you, Daniela. Spider-Boss says, sometimes Roman seems angry with The Rock taking the spotlight from him and the bloodline. That's the plot. Silvic says, the Fury is a good theme and interesting one to come back from. I always thought she said bring back Spiteful. I'm interested in seeing a few of them. Perry says, if Priest decided to cash in on Reigns during his tag match and won, how much would we boo him? He would have no success, and we all know it. Hector says, it sucks that it took Mercedes joining AEW in order for Tony Khan to take the women's division seriously when he had a star in the making and could have built around in Jade Cargill. He did have a star in the making. He did build around her. He built an entire division around her. It was a TBS championship division. So let's not pretend that it's always been horrible and that Jade Cargill has been rescued. I don't believe that's the case. Vegeta says, hi Tom. Hello, Vegeta. Smurfy says, any news or word on the supposed altercation between CM Punk and Booker T? There is no real altercation. There was a encounter, a disagreement, and we all, including them, moved on with our lives. Next up, let's talk Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is now considered by the WWE to be their absolute top priority. They want to get that signed and they want to get it over the line as soon as possible. In fact, they've upped the offer being made to him considering the work that he's been doing previously, and the negotiations are said to be moving quickly. McIntyre has said that he's looking for a break, but with the contracts of big names like Rollins, Lynch and Balor potentially up soon, WWE want that break to come after SummerSlam and not before. I remain confident. Drew McIntyre is going nowhere, and there's been plenty of hints given to me and plenty of news that I've had mentioned to me, making it very clear Drew McIntyre has no interest in going anywhere but the WWE. He, like many, just wants to ensure that it's not about the money, it's about the championships. Being in a huge match at WrestleMania is part of the deal. I expect shortly after WrestleMania a new contract for Drew McIntyre to be announced. If you're watching on YouTube, we have 68 viewers and 38 likes. 2 more gets us to 40. Just 2 more likes gets us to a lovely round number, which will continue the growth of the channel, continue getting views onto it, which means more people dropping in with ads, more revenue, closer to full time. Every little does help. Every comment, every like, all of this massively boosts what we're doing here and massively ensures the growth of the channel. Our success recently is literally our success. It's not my success. A lot of this comes from what you guys are doing to help me. So I do want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's currently watching, as well as everyone who will be watching after the fact. Daniela says, Tom, does Damien not realise he has to cash in the briefcase by the end of June? Yes, he knows full well, as I've mentioned, and as I firmly believe, Mr. Heist of the Century will be Heist of the Centuried. Cal says, sorry I'm late, been out for a few pints. Hope you're good, and surprise, Mercedes money is in AEW. People would have known if they watched The Best Journalist, Tom. Thank you, Cal. Hope you had a good night. You want me to fantasize with you? Interesting, Parrish. King Adler says, hey Tom, what would be more shocking? Seth turning on Cody or Roman beating Cody clean and retaining? Seth turning on Cody. Roman's the guy. Spider-Boss says, I think the thing with Jade on AEW is she didn't go beyond the AEW TBS women's title. Yeah, she's relatively new to wrestling. I ain't blaming nobody. Cal says, to be fair, Drew deserves a big contract. He's been unbelievable recently. Vegeta says, Roman winning again? That energy should not be put out into the universe. Sovik says, any news on Sheamus? And do you think he is leaving? Nope. Personally, I think Sheamus is happy. He's been injured for a while. The time that he's spent being injured will be added on to his contract extension, so I wouldn't worry that he's going to be leaving anytime soon. It just doesn't seem like a significant possibility at this point in time. Right, next piece of news is as regards Finn Balor. There has been no progress on Finn Balor's WWE contract, despite the fact that it is being looked at as a priority now from the WWE. It seems most likely at the moment that he is going to be the one leaving out of everybody currently considering their options. He could leave WWE when there is interest in him from AEW and from New Japan. In a private sense, he's very close with Jay White, and he is rumoured to be interested in a Bullet Club reunion in AEW with Jay White. He's also been told, and it's been made clear to him, that he is very unlikely to win the top gold in the WWE, either the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship, ever again. And so he is said to be eager for a refresh. The negotiations seem similar to the negotiations happening with Edge, where the WWE have made an offer and they are unwilling to change that offer. As such, I do suspect if anyone is leaving WWE anytime soon, it will be Finn Balor. Shifty, at this point I'm not sure, but I do see Becky losing. DM says, was Brock Lesnar the right guy to end the streak? I honestly don't know. When it comes to The Undertaker, I wasn't really watching at the time. I feel he should have retired before he did. Razar says, I kind of feel like the tag title might be split at WrestleMania with 2 teams pulling down each set of titles since it's a ladder match. We'll have to wait and see. There is no evidence that there's ever been any plan to split the championships, despite a hell of a lot of different places, like Zero News and Boozer, for example, all reporting that there were new tag team championships, that they were going to be split time and time again. Spider-Boss says, do you think Bianca could end up helping Bayley against Damage Control? Yes. Daniela says, Tom, what's your thoughts on the WrestleMania 46-pack ladder tag match for undisputed tag titles? Do you see Finn and Damien losing their titles at Mania? Yes, I do. My full predictions for WrestleMania are already live on the YouTube channel, and you should check them out if you haven't already. Leon says, I wonder how different Finn Balor's WWE career would have been if he hadn't gotten injured at SummerSlam 2016. Not just his, Roman Reigns was going to be a heel in 2016. Cal says, I feel like Finn should move on. He went static after his first push. He's had a good run in Judgment Day, but I don't see life after the Judgment for Finn having a move is best for both parties. I think that's quite possibly accurate. Spider-Boss says, injuries and bad creative played a role in Finn Balor not winning a world title again. Very true. Juan says, looks like Tom Colohue right again. I remember you told me Finn Balor was more likely leaving than Drew. That doesn't mean it's 100%. I just think it's more likely. No, Shifty. Boozer was not reliable to my knowledge. Everything that I saw Boozer report had already been reported elsewhere behind paywalls. Slovak says, do you think if Finn leaves, who would WWE go for to replace him in Judgment Day? I don't think they necessarily would replace him in Judgment Day. No, Jay Palmer. I don't think Kevin Owens resigns. Because, he can't. He's under a contract. King Azza, when it comes to the best match at Mania, I stand by Becky versus Rhea. Carl says, Tom, I have an idea. Priest and Balor will lose, and then Priest will cash in on Seth, and bang, the breakdown of the Judgment Day starts. I like that. So your idea is basically what I already think is going to happen. Spider-Boss says, how long do you think it will take for Mercedes Money to win a women's title in AEW? Not long, though I don't think it'll be the women's championship you think it will be. DM says, Finn Balor should leave WWE. Never got what he deserved, and now he's a sidekick in the group. This is the same guy who won the first Universal Championship. Come on. Noob says, Zero News points out we might be getting a 6-woman tag match between Damage Control versus Bianca, Jade Cargill, and Naomi. Right, so at that point then, the Women's Tag Team Championships definitely not being defended. Also, it's kind of Zero News watching the show and saying, oh, they're hinting at this. It's not a report. Shifty, I've reported everything that I have on Jey Uso already. Let's talk Sami Zayn. Dave Meltzer has reported that Sami Zayn is genuinely upset by the negative reaction to Chad Gable's loss in the Gauntlet match. This is not true. Sami Zayn, however, has asked, and this is an interesting one, if he could step aside to make space for Chad Gable, as he believed Gable to be more deserving. The WWE said no, for now at least. Sami Zayn is one of the best people in the WWE, just in the case of being a good person. He would not be upset with fan reaction like this. He's also really not a social media person, so he's not even going to be seeing that much of it. The only time he really uses social media is to advertise Sami for Syria. Sami Zayn is thrilled for Chad Gable and very eager to get him as involved as possible. He is not upset. Jay Palmer, you're asking about a wrestler that there's been no evidence that his contract is even close to coming up. It's like saying, do you think Roman's going to stay in WWE? Spider-Boss says, I think Mercedes Money could beat AEW TBS Women's Champion Julia Hart. Mercedes got Julia instead of Julia. I previously mentioned that, yes. Carl says, obviously Finn is talented, we all know it, but a lot happens in a year and his injury kept him out. People moved in his position. That's the game, unfortunately. Rizal says, I can't wait for all the news outlets and journalists to pick up on the Finn news weeks later. I'm not going to rate the worst WrestleMania, mate. Shifty, to my knowledge, wrong. Completely wrong. Sami was not mad. Slovak says, Bianca and Naomi versus Asuka and Kairi for women's tag titles is a possibility, but 6-woman match is not. Zero News is not correct here. I mean, it would be Dakota Kai. Perry says, I found it fickle as heck that people years ago that Sami Zayn was supposed to be the guy to win the championship against Roman. Now he can't even win the IC championship against Gunther. He's not booked to win the championship. Dave Meltzer also said it, Leon. He followed up on the report and said it as well. Okay. Hector says, I remember after Elimination Chamber I was unsure if KO or Sami would have a spot on the main card. Now they're both in mid-card title matches, which I'm glad to see. Roger says, you're looking forward to LA Knight versus AJ Styles? Not really. LA Knight's wrestling style doesn't entertain me. But the boss says, at this point, I'm tired of Roman versus Cody. Cody's fans keep going with Cody. Got to finish his story now. It's been so annoying. And Carl says, Roman was always the guy. Correct. Absolutely correct. Dave Meltzer has also reported that WWE thought the WrestleMania name would be enough to sign Ospreay, Mone, and Okada. Again, this is not true. There were reports from Fightful that WWE was waiting for the new year to start signing up free agents, but of the free agents available, this did not include Ospreay, Mone, or Okada. There was interest in Will Ospreay, but not enough that the WWE were willing to offer him anywhere close to what AEW was offering. There was interest in Okada, but not really. As previously reported, the reports that WWE were using Nakamura in a way to try and entice Okada simply weren't true. Triple H, to my knowledge, had no real plans to use Okada even if he got him. As regards Mercedes Money, they did throw a lot of money her way, but what they didn't throw her way was the name Mercedes money. They wanted her to return under the name Sasha Banks, and Mercedes is simply not willing to go backwards in her career in that regard. The problem there, of course, is that while Dave Meltzer is reporting that WWE for the WrestleMania name would be enough to sign these people, the WWE actually didn't really want to make those signings. The WWE, to my knowledge, are happy where they are, and in fact, only something that they consider to be truly special will be what they decide to sign. Mercedes money was one of those. Naomi is one of those, in many ways to refresh the issues that came before. But when it comes to Will Ospreay, the WWE, to my knowledge, simply weren't that interested. Daniela says, Tom, what's your thoughts on the brutal words that Candice said to Maxine on Raw in the tag match? Real simple. Candice is the fans at that point, and in Candice being a heel and it being worse, the WWE have essentially turned those fans who were booing Mercedes into fans who are cheering Mercedes, because that's too far. Jay Palmer says, do you think Logan Paul wins at WrestleMania? Nope. Perry says, I mean, everyone wanted Sami to win the title in Montreal, but shouldn't be the one to win the gauntlet. For me, I don't see why I shouldn't be happy for him. Nobody said you shouldn't be happy for him. Go nuts, mate. Aled says, I believe Mercedes will be in AEW for 3 years, then consider going back to WWE. It's not like I've already reported that exact thing or anything. Cal says, Ospreay versus Seth would have been an incredible match. It would, I'm sure. One says, Dave Meltzer has lost a lot of credibility over the years, to be honest. Yeah, he has bad weeks sometimes. Spider-Boss says, one thing about Heyman, it's he's a visionary, believed first in Brock, CM Punk and Roman. Cal says, WWE are on fire right now, and Ospreay and Okada are great, but great for hardcore fans, but casuals don't know them. WWE will only go huge for a superstar. As regards Mercedes money and her debut in AEW, before I jump in, we have 43 likes right now, 2 more to 45. Can you make it happen? After that, we push for 50 before we finish. Mercedes money was very well received backstage in AEW. There isn't any backlash to her comments about returning to the WWE one day. The only people with a backlash to that are media figures who decided that it was a wrong thing to say. Tony Khan laid the red carpet as promised, but overall, the fan reception on social media is what's making Tony Khan consider this a huge success. While the ratings did not follow, AEW is said to be on an upward curve quality-wise once again, and they do believe that Mercedes money is going to make a massive difference to that. That was a real priority. The ratings are secondary to Tony Khan. Mercedes money has already sat down with the new creative team to let them know what she wants and what she expects. She will be getting all of it. All of it. And finally, Shayna Baszler has been announced as part of Game Changer Wrestling's Blood Sport. Now, the WWE are already annoyed because they believe that GCW intentionally leaked details to a wrestling media personality whom has wrestled on GCW cards in the past. It's all a little too convenient, and they're not happy. Always a fun one to go over. Razar says, Mercedes agent said in a podcast that high-level people told him no one would accept Mercedes as anything but Sasha, Banks, and the boss. So, as reported, right here, way back in October. Thank you for confirming. Eric says, do you think Liv, Dakota Cross and Lashley do anything for Mania? Yes. Alice says, I miss MJF. I hope he'll be back soon. He will. Spiderboss says, Mercedes Money's interview with Renee Paquette was good. The ankle injury almost forced Mercedes to retire. Eric's asking for any updates on Asuka's condition. As I've mentioned earlier, I heard that she was hurt. I didn't hear that she was injured, as in long term. Vajik says, Ospreay could have been a star though focused on in WWE. The WWE did not believe that. So Vic says, Mercedes Money wanted her brand. Makes sense that she wants to increase her popularity and name before she goes back to WWE. She is confident that the WWE will eventually give her what she wants, that being a use of the Mercedes Money name, not Sasha Banks. Chris says, good evening, Tom. Got you on in the background while I edit some videos. Appreciate you for that. Good43 says, hello, Tom. How do you think Paul Heyman will address the Brock situation in his Hall of Fame speech? By completely and utterly ignoring it. WWE rules tend to be, you ignore it and it goes away. Roger says Mercedes money won't be as the best thing in the women's division. It will be timeless Tony Storm. And one says Mercedes money agent also said AEW offered mental health insurances. I think that's what he meant. Shifty says, does WWE plan to have Logan hold the US title long term? Depends what you mean by long term. And Razal says, have you got any news on Julia to WWE? Nope, I never have. And I honestly don't think I'm ever going to. I don't have a connection there. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm not the most well-connected person in wrestling. But I am the most accessible. If you've enjoyed this show and you're watching on, for example, good old-fashioned Twitter, where we currently sat at 104 views and people have been dipping in and out, come over to YouTube. This is what we do twice a week on YouTube. Pop over. You'll get a show every Monday and every Friday and plenty more to be diving into. So if you've enjoyed this, be sure to come on over and I will see you there. In the meantime, this has been Saturday Spoiler Warning. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a take 2 after the technical issues we had yesterday. We will be back on Monday with more. But until then, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic and I'll see you all very soon.